Hello and welcome back to the Radio Podcast. I am Jeff. I'm joined by Devin from New York City.
Hello. I'm
And
in New York City.
Austin from Colorado Springs.
I'm not in Colorado Springs.
But you were, and we'll talk more about that later. What I'm here to talk about was the 2019 German Grand Prix at the Hockenheim track in
Presented by Mercedes-Benz.
presented by Mercedes-Benz for their 125th anniversary in motorsport with a special livery, special team kit, and a Netflix documentary to film it in Baden-Württemberg, Germany.
That was quite the intro.
It was quite the intro, and it was quite the fucking race, if I do say so myself.
It was really good.
So I guess let's jump right into it. Does anyone have any commentary about the free practices other than Pierre Gasly crashing and needing a new survival cell?
No, you know I don't watch those.
Devin?
I forgot that had happened.
Yeah, I forgot that happened too until just now. That's the only notable thing that I have out of the free practices. And Ferrari on top of all three sessions. So there's that. So going into it, you're like, oh, damn. Ferrari's got their shit together for this race. They're looking good.
It's about
Yeah,
damn
like,
time.
Let's get into qualifying. Let's see how excited Ferrari is to try to take it to Mercedes at their home track. And then right out of the gate, Sebastian Vettel can't go out in Q1. So he starts from P20.
Nice.
You're like, good start, Ferrari. Looking so good.
Yeah, that was a real disappointment.
It's not a good way to start qualifying. But Charles still looking fast. Only other notable thing to happen in Q1 is, unfortunately for Devin, Lance Stroll makes it out of Q1.
And also, Lando Norris does not.
Yeah,
Making
that was
this
a bummer.
maybe the worst Q1 of the year.
Yeah, that was pretty unfortunate. Let's see, any other particularly interesting things that happened in Q1? Come on. Yeah, Norris and Albon both don't make it out of Q1. That is unfortunate. The drivers eliminated at Q2. Stroll comes in P15 in Q2, so he barely eked it out.
Hey, man, he got out of Q1.
He did. Oh boy, this is a confusing display here. Yep. Okay, so Giovinazzi, Magnussen, Ricciardo, Kvyat, and Stroll are all knocked out of Q2. Notable here that Magnussen is the one that was eliminated of the Haas team because Grosjean's still running the Australia spec car and out-qualified his teammate pretty handily for this race.
Whoops.
So
Yeah, Haas's updates continue to look bad, and also that car continues to run the Rich Energy livery.
yeah,
as
Devin was
I
right.
suspected
Yeah.
they would.
Yep. So now I think that they're probably just in. We're going to make sure that we do whatever we can to make sure that we are not in breach of contract or not breaching the contract here to make sure that we can sue somebody and they can't throw anything against us.
Did any Twitter updates come from this?
No, but yes, because tweets started getting deleted, which means that someone has wrangled control away from that lunatic, it seems.
I can see why you would think that,
Uh-oh.
but I will say that I saw something else from that made it seem to the opposite. Because, yeah, it's like a lot of just like retweets and like tweets that are like favorable to Haas coming out of them now, and some old stuff deleted. But then the most recent actual tweet of theirs, if I can find it, unless it's been deleted as well. Yeah, I think they deleted the tweet I was thinking of. I don't remember what it was.
So maybe
I saw something and I was like, boy, that looks like they're still up to their shit.
So maybe two people have access to it, and neither of them have figured, why don't we just change the fucking password?
Yeah, I don't know what's going on with that thing.
Great. Rich Energy
Hopefully it
continues to
dies.
be
The
a
saga
disaster.
continues.
Yeah. Going into Q3, now Charles can't go out. He's stuck in P10. He doesn't set a time in Q3. What the hell, Ferrari? You're looking so
Yeah.
strong.
Ferrari's fucking up.
You're crushing my pole predictions, guys.
Yep, and now starting P10 and P20?
Yeah, P10 and P20 when they had been at the top of all 3 free practice sessions. Like, absolutely heartbreaking for, like, Vettel looked upset, Charles looked upset. Like, it was a rough time in the Ferrari garage on Saturday.
Meanwhile, Lewis Hamilton was sick and nearly didn't even participate.
Oh, really?
Qualifying.
I hadn't heard anything about him being sick until today, I think.
Oh,
So
yeah,
2
he was
days
sick,
after the race.
and Mercedes was prepared to put Ocon in to run qualifying for him.
Wow.
And then Ocon would have, or could have run the race if Lewis was still sick the next day. But, yeah, since Ocon didn't run any practice, if Lewis had got sicker on Sunday, Mercedes would have had to just run Bottas.
Just the one
Because
car. Because he didn't have any
car.
times.
Exactly.
Interesting. Yeah, I hadn't heard that.
Yeah, I kind of wish Ocon had got a chance to drive again this weekend. That would have been really nice for him.
Maybe.
But instead,
or maybe not. It could have gone 2 ways for him this weekend, as it did for many people.
That's a good point.
It's been dry all weekend up to this point. Race day, it's raining hard as shit in the morning.
Fuck yeah.
There was a chance of rain for qualifying, but nothing happened.
Yeah.
We wanted this.
Yes, so the thing that we wanted and we hoped for, and the forecast looked like it had a chance, it was on. It was pouring rain. The rain started to let up. The race was able to not start on time, but the formation lap started on time. But they stayed out for like 4 or 5 laps behind the safety car on the formation lap. And during this time, you hear the pit wall talking to the different cars, drivers, and they're like, okay, so we're going to be on a formation lap for a handful of laps, and then they're going to make a decision whether it's going to be a rolling start or a standing start. And you're like, ooh, we could do a standing start? I didn't know that could happen. I don't know how recent that regulation is. The commentators kind of all argued amongst themselves about how new that was.
Yeah.
So I'm going to assume that it is new, because if they have disagreement between each other, I'm just not going to trust them to remember it the right way, because they're old.
Yeah. I feel like it's this year, because I don't think I've seen that before.
Yeah, I don't think that I've seen that before. Historically, it's just been you start.
Typically, if you start behind the safety car, you can't.
Well, that was
do a
the thing, is
standing
they didn't start behind the safety car. They did the formation lap, and then they just kept going on the formation lap. So they ended up knocking down the race distance, but they still started on lap 1 because they ended up calling a standing start. So everybody pulled up to the grid. They said that this is going to be the start of the race, and that was lap 1 versus it being lap 4 or whatever.
Yeah.
After starting behind the safety car, they did knock down the race distance by like 4 laps, I think.
Yeah, just same number of the extra formation laps they did.
Yeah,
since they've
it's
got
to
a
keep
fixed
the
amount of
engineers
fuel.
from pulling their hair out.
Yeah. So our starting grid for the top 10 here is Hamilton on pole, pulled it out while he was sick. Verstappen coming in P2, 4/100ths behind Hamilton. Bottas in P3. Pierre in P4, pretty good for him. Followed by Raikkonen, Grosjean, Sainz, Perez, Hülkenberg, and then Leclerc, who did that set a time in Q3. So that's our starting lineup for the top 10. Like we said earlier, Vettel is in P20. The purpose of them doing a handful of formation laps behind the safety car was to try to knock some of the standing water off the track. The cars are all on full wets because it's been raining and is actively raining, so their qualifying tire strategy selections do not matter at this point. And it seems like it's drying. The drivers are starting to complain that why aren't we racing, yada yada yada, doing driver noises. But I feel like it kind of lightened up on the rain, and then when they went to start, the rain kind of started to pick back up. So we start the race. Hamilton gets away well. Bottas gets away well. Both Red Bulls, I don't know if Pierre was compromised by Max because he was starting right. No, sorry, he was next to him. Both Red Bulls don't get a
No, he
good
was
start.
right behind him.
From P4?
Max was 2, Pierre was 4.
Oh, right. Sorry, I was thinking. Okay, yes. I don't know if Pierre was compromised with Max at all. Max gets a terrible start. Just wheel spin city over there. Just you see the car kick the back end out sideways as he tries to take off, which is a real bummer for him. He drops down to like P5, I think, right off the bat.
Yeah, Kimi gets a really good start as well.
Kimi does get a really good start for maybe reasons that we'll talk about at the end.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah. So what I've done, because... spoilers, this is a really good race. A lot of things happen for it. So I'm relying on GrandPrix.com's race notes. I'm going to try to avoid reading them verbatim, but so much stuff happened that I'm not going to be able to recall it all from memory like I normally try to do, and I'm sure do a bad job of. So I'm going to refer to these race notes. Let's see. So... yeah, so it goes Hamilton, Bottas, Raikkonen gets up to third, Verstappen falls to fourth, Hülkenberg, Leclerc, Grosjean, Gasly, Sainz, Perez, and 10th. So Gasly also loses a couple of spots there. Looking at the onboard from Sebastian, who's starting at the very back of the grid, he's driving into a grayed out wall of unknown in front of him, going into turn one. Like, he cuts up the inside, and I guess he just has to estimate how far along the track he is and where his braking point should be, because he can't see any of the cars around him. It is
wet.
It is wet.
Hashtag wet.
Hashtag wet. Let's see. Pretty much not a ton happens on the first lap. It's about midway through lap 2. The car comes out from under Perez. He spins, knocks his front wing off, and punctures his front left tire and just gets stuck, which causes our, I'm going to say, first safety car of this race. I don't know if the formation lap behind the safety car counted as a safety car. It ended up not mattering in the end because we had a lot of safety cars. So Perez gets knocked out, full safety car comes out. A lot of people dive into the pits to go on to intermediates because the track is starting to dry out a little bit.
Yeah, almost everybody dives in at this point. There's a few cars that wait till... I don't remember when the safety car came in, but like they waited like 3 or 4 laps to get on intermediates, and it's like, it seems too late at that point. Like, you guys just really bungled this.
Yeah, it's not Force India. Racing Point is one of the teams that waits. By the time by lap 6, Vettel has made it from P20 to P8.
I'd
Wow.
reckon that's pretty good.
Yeah, he was in a really good position when the safety car came out to pit like immediately. So he got the most advantage possible from this safety car, but had also already made up a few spots beforehand.
During this mad dash for intermediate tires, Ferrari pits Charles. They release Charles and then basically just scream into his headset, "Watch out for traffic," because they release him at a point where the cars are pitting all over the place, coming in and coming out of the pits. They release him, and Grosjean almost runs into the back of him, has to slam on his brakes, and I think he touches his front wing to his tire just very slightly.
Yeah, it sure looked like it.
And Ferrari ended up getting a monetary penalty out of it. That's the only thing. There's no penalty points awarded or time penalties awarded as a result of this.
Yeah, and I'm of two minds on that. Like, on the one hand, it was so busy, like, it's hard to see what's going on, but also with it being so busy, that makes an unsafe release
even more
unsafe.
Yeah.
And it's like you're not actually penalizing the team anything aside from money, which Ferrari didn't give a shit about however much that fine was.
Yeah, I'm actually mildly upset about this. Like, I don't think Charles did anything wrong.
No,
But you've now set the precedent of, like, fuck it. If track position matters to you to this amount of money, like, just spend it.
Yeah. Well, remember when Charles and Max were racing down the pit lane? Like, nothing, even less came out of that one, and I felt like that was
way more egregious. Yeah.
But then again, Max got grid place penalty or time penalty for bumping into the side of Bottas in Monaco. So they've kind of been all over the place with the unsafe releases, in my opinion. Albon in the pits at this point also has to. Albon is pulling out of the pits and has to stop, and someone slides in front of him. So it's a hectic scene on the pit lane. After that, not a ton is going on for, 10 or so laps. And then on lap 15, Ricciardo is driver number 2 out of the race. You just see a massive cloud of smoke coming out of the back of his car. Something has failed on his Renault.
That was his first engine allocation from the beginning of the season.
Interesting.
So they went backwards, hoping to maybe get a race or two out of it, and that didn't pan out.
Yeah, it was a bummer.
So this brings out a VSC, so not a full safety car, just a virtual safety car.
And what lap was this again?
Lap 15.
So here at this point, only 2 cars actually take advantage of the VSC, namely Hülkenberg and Leclerc, and both of them just slap on another set of intermediates.
Puts them on some fresh rubber.
Yeah, because
I was surprised that no one else did this.
The track is evolving sort of unevenly, we'll say, towards the last part and the very front part of the track, basically where the start-finish line is. It's still very wet, but on the other side of the track, it's starting to dry out pretty well, so they're starting to chew up their tires. So the intermediates work less well in the wet sections if you've worn through the tread on them, because now there's no more grooves to displace the water that you're going through. So new intermediates can help you quite a bit in that scenario. Right around this time, so at Hockenheim, down the main straight, the part of the track that leads up to the last corner, taking you to the main straight, going the other direction, alongside the track is a drag strip.
Fuck yeah.
And it has a bunch of standing water on it, and it is very smooth and is super slick. Sainz loses the front end of the car a little bit and ends up spinning and coming within, probably 6 inches of the wall, is able to chuck it in reverse and then rejoin the track. So Sainz loses it, but he's able to continue, doesn't suffer any damage.
Yeah, that was really lucky. He also was stopped further away than that and then tried to just gun it and spin around like they always do, and then almost hit the wall doing that before he reversed.
Yes, it was very close. He was very lucky. Around this time, Vettel started to complain that his tires are wearing out. Some of the people that did, or I guess a lot of the people that didn't pit for the second set of intermediates, are complaining of this. And Haas is the first team to come in. They pit Magnussen and gamble with him and throwing some softs on
lap 21.
Vettel comes in 2 laps later. They put soft slicks on him. On lap 25, Verstappen comes in and they throw mediums.
A used set of mediums also,
yes,
which is weird.
Maybe they were... I'm assuming that their strategy was, the weather's fairly cool, we'll throw these mediums on. If it continues to dry out, we'll probably just be able to stay on them for the rest of the race.
Yeah, that's kind of what I was thinking too. But it still seemed weird. That seems too far to go on a used set of mediums.
Yeah. To try to counter this, a lap later, Bottas pits, and he also puts on mediums.
Also used.
And then the rain has started to pick up a little bit at this point, and Verstappen spins, does a full 360, and the floor of his car goes over some curbing, but it doesn't seem like it's actually damaged his car. He's just doing out there sick donuts.
Yeah.
And he comes over the radio. He's like, "Guys, why didn't you put me on the softs instead of these mediums?" And then Leclerc pits and throws softs on right after that as well. And then Norris had come in and I think for a second pit stop. Is that right, Devin?
Yeah.
And after his second pit stop, almost immediately afterwards, the next lap or two, he comes over the radio and has to retire because he says that his car's lost power, which is real bummer. Wanted to see that dude doing good this weekend.
Yeah.
So because his car has retired, he's pulled off the track, so he's not really on the racing line, but they still deploy a second VSC now, so they can recover his Renault. And this kicks off another series of pits where pretty much everyone is throwing on more. Well, some people it's a mixed bag. Sainz pits, he goes on intermediates. Hamilton pits from the lead, and he goes on to softs. And then basically, right after Hamilton goes on the softs, Leclerc loses it in pretty much the same spot as Sainz did earlier, except he bangs the side of his car up against the sponsor boards in a gravel trap, and then tries to get out of it, and unfortunately his car just digs itself a hole, and he is out of the race. He was running in second. It's a real
tough luck, Chuck.
Bummer for Charles. Yeah. And man, did you hear his team radio?
No.
Well, no, not after that. He's like, "Oh, come on, Charles." Like, he's super bummed, and I get it.
That sucks shit.
Really sucks. So he's crashed out. Then this kicks off another handful of pit stops. Raikkonen, Vettel, Gasly, Kvyat, and Grosjean. Those guys all pit, and before they've recovered Charles's car, Hamilton goes off in the same spot, knocks the front left side of his front wing off. It breaks one of the weird kind of dangly bits that's on top of the nose, but not actually part of the wing. And he has to cut all across the wrong side of the pit lane cone to go into the pits because he ain't got no front wing no more.
Yeah.
But he's able to drive out of it. So his race isn't over. This turns into a real cluster for Mercedes because I think they were expecting Bottas to be coming in when Hamilton spun, so they don't have his tires ready because he crashed.
I
mean, it was right at the end of the pit entry.
The pit entry. So he pulls in. They're the first spot along the pit line, so he has the shortest distance from the racetrack to his pit box. And it ends up being like a 50-second pit stop before they get his wing and the right set of tires on. At one point, they had an intermediate on the front right and a soft on the front left, and then they had to pull that soft off and then put another intermediate on. It was
it's
very surprising that they didn't end up with the wrong set of tires on that car, because there's guys running in and out of the garage with tires, and I'm just like, whose tires did this car even belong to?
Yeah, it was a fucking cluster, dude. That
was worst pit stop I've ever seen.
I wouldn't say it's the worst I've ever seen. I'd say the worst you've seen is probably
just that guy breaking his leg.
No, I was going to say the one for Ricciardo in Monaco where they lost him the race because they didn't have his tires, and they didn't have any reason to not have his tires for that one. Whereas this one, you're like, yeah, this was a shit show, but you're kind of scrambling to try to make it the least shit show that you can.
Yeah, it went very wrong.
It did. Which is not typical Mercedes. Listening to the Mercedes team radio, like, they're all pretty calm throughout, which is impressive.
Yeah. But in addition, as you mentioned, he went on the wrong side of that pit lane cone, and he gets a 5-second time penalty for that?
That is correct.
I want to say?
Yeah. So after Hamilton goes off, he gets his pit stop taken care of. He still managed to rejoin in fifth, even after that minute-long pit stop, basically. Verstappen ends up pitting after this. He gets some new inters put on. Is that right, Devin? You've got the pit stop charts?
Yes. Everybody's going back on to inters at this point.
Because it has started to pick up with the rain again at this point. Leclerc's car recovery has caused another. Is it a full safety car, or are we still under the VSC? No, it's a full safety car.
I think it's a full safety car.
If there's a car on track, it has to be a full safety car.
Were we under VSC when Leclerc went out, and then it got converted to a full safety car? Or had that VSC just ended, and then Leclerc crashed out?
VSC had just ended whenever.
Like they were close enough together to where it's hard to tell from looking at notes what actually occurred. With
Anytime that there's a car on track that requires heavy equipment is a full safety car.
Yeah. So this safety car lasts for, we'll say 5 laps. Everybody's pretty much come back out on intermediates, and throughout this, because Verstappen pitted first right after Hamilton's incident and after Charles's incident, he is now leading the race at the end of the safety car. So at this point, it's like Verstappen, Bottas, and then I don't know the rest of the running order at this point. I'm pretty sure it's those two, though.
Yeah.
Hamilton's back in 5th at this point. Oh, sorry. It was Verstappen, Hülkenberg, Bottas, Albon, Hamilton at the restart of the safety car. Shortly after, Hamilton gets past Albon for 4th, Bottas passed Hülkenberg for 2nd, and then on lap 38, Hamilton passes Hülkenberg for 3rd. So by lap 39, it's now Verstappen, Bottas, Hamilton, Hülkenberg, Albon. And at this point in the race, Dev and I are chatting because, like, wow, this is a lot going on. It's like, I can't wait to see how Hülkenberg screws this up for himself and continues his streak of no podiums in his career. And then on lap 41, Hülkenberg slides off at the final corner, the same place that Leclerc and Sainz and Hamilton have all had incidents. And he doesn't hit the wall where Leclerc and Hamilton hit it. He slid off, got onto the drag strip, thought he got the car under control, applied a little bit more power, and then just hydroplaned straight into the wall. On the far end of the corner.
I'm pretty gutted for that dude.
And basically the same thing as Charles, is he tries to drive out of it and ends up just kind of like bouncing his car along the wall further, and he ends up having to retire. This causes another safety car to come out.
Yeah.
While this safety car is out, Verstappen comes in and gets another set of intermediate tires. Vettel comes in and gets another set of intermediates. Vettel's running back in 10th at this point. And then Stroll comes in and he throws a set of softs on. So he's kind of the only person out there that's running around on slicks at this point in the race. This safety car lasts 4 laps. So lap 45, the safety car comes in, and it's still Verstappen, Bottas, Hamilton running. And then Albon ends up fighting with Hamilton for a little bit right at the start. There's actually like a pretty good scrap between Hamilton, Albon, Sainz, and Pierre. Like they all end up trading places, and then unfortunately Albon kind of gets the short end of the stick there and ends up last of that group. Hamilton doesn't actually lose any position. The next lap, track has started to dry out. People are now coming in for slicks. So Stroll was the first one to go out on slicks, taking the gamble. It's working out pretty well for him, because after all of these people end up pitting, it's now Verstappen leading Stroll, followed by Kvyat, followed by Bottas, Sainz, Magnussen, Albon, Gasly, Vettel, and Grosjean in 10th.
And for a few brief moments, Stroll was actually leading this race.
He was, while Max was in the pits. Stroll was up there, the front of the race, for about half of a lap.
And worth noting also that for the second race in a row, Red Bull sets a world record for fastest pit stop time.
Yeah, from 1.91 now to 1.88. Also,
and they also adjusted his front wing during this pit stop.
No kidding. I didn't see that part. That's crazy.
Yeah.
I mean, I guess like it's another person there.
Yeah.
So it's not like one of the wheel guys also did that, but still, just the coordination is impressive. During this time, Kvyat out there setting the fastest lap, which is not what you expect to see.
Look at him go.
Yeah, look at him go. The next lap, though, Max takes that away from Kvyat by like a second and a half. He knocks that time down by.
Oof.
A little bit later, Kvyat passes Stroll for second place. We're coming to the closing stages of the race. We're on about lap 50 out of 64, I think, at this point.
Yeah.
Yeah. Another thing worth noting is that it was actually a the time penalty for Hamilton. Since he pitted again, he had to
They had to do a
wait in the
5-second
pits.
stop.
So he had to just sit in the pits, and since it's bunched up under safety car, Hamilton at this point falls way back in the order.
Yes. And then to make matters worse for Hamilton, he ends up going wide at the first corner. So not where everybody else has been screwing up. He ends up going wide, and it looks like everybody keeps saying he's going wide, and the notes here say that he was going wide. But to me, it looked like he got a little too tight on the apex, picked up a little bit of water, and the back of the car just came out from under him. And that's what actually caused him to go wide. And he ends up avoiding the main wall and barely clips one of, it looks like it was just like the soft barrier piece of the wall with his rear left, and is able to continue going down. So basically he just does a full 360 and then continues on down the track. But he then has to pit for another set of softs, and I think that's when he serves his 5-second pit stop and comes out in 15th after that.
Oof.
Yeah, so at this point, after that, there's some team radio from Hamilton where he's like, just retire the car. And they're like, nope, go ahead and stay out. Like, you never know what could happen out there.
Yeah, spent so many fucking wild things already. Like, Lance goddamn Stroll was leading this race for a second, Lewis.
Yeah. Bottas is still trying to hunt down Stroll at this point while Hamilton's dealing with his tires and his spinning. While Bottas is fighting with Stroll, surprise, surprise, the Haas's are running into each other. They're both complaining about the other's driving styles and saying that the other is not learning.
Jesus, dude.
I kind of wish they'd crashed. Like,
I do too. That would have just been fitting.
fucking learn your lesson, you dipshits.
Yeah. Then we're 2 laps after Hamilton's had his incident in the exact same spot, almost in the exact same, like, identical way this occurred. Bottas loses a car, does a 360, except he collects the barrier, or rather the barrier collects him, breaks off a wheel. He's out of the race.
Fucking
From third place,
hell.
he's out.
Happy 125th anniversary, Mercedes.
Yeah.
Happy filming, Netflix.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
I can't wait for that episode of that show.
I'm a little concerned that Mercedes is just going to be like, you know what, no. I don't know how much like creative control Mercedes has over
Probably
like the
none.
final. I bet that they have a lot.
Man.
We won't know until probably February, but regardless of whether or not like you get to see a ton, like we'll see this race because so much shit happened in it. It's just how much in-depth internal Mercedes stuff will we see come out of it.
Yeah.
So I'm hoping for some. It was,
To quote Hamilton, how did this go so wrong?
yeah, it's got to be the worst race for Mercedes. But I guess Austria last year was equally bad for them when they had double retirements for
Yeah.
gearbox failures, I think it was. At this point, Vettel is setting fast laps, and he's running in 6th. The safety car comes out for Bottas's wreck. So behind the safety car, our running order is now Verstappen, Kvyat, Stroll, Sainz, Vettel, Albon, Gasly, Raikkonen, Grosjean, and Giovinazzi holding it down in 10th place. This safety car doesn't come back in until lap 59, so we've only got 5 laps to go, so there is 64 laps. And boy, the what this podium is looking like at this point, you're like, oh man, could it be a Red Bull, a Toro Rosso, or a Racing Point, or maybe even a McLaren on this
Yeah.
podium? Like, what the fuck is
Yeah, I
going to
was
happen
seeing
at the
signs
end of
over
this
there, and I
race?
was getting real excited.
Yeah,
Yep.
I texted Devin at this point. I was like, "Let's go, Sainz!" And then Sainz gets passed by Vettel, which, in hindsight, like, yeah, of course, this is what was going to happen.
Yeah.
So Vettel gets past Sainz, and then Albon passes Gasly. which, boy, that's not looking good for your boy Gasly.
Yeah.
Then to close out the race, Vettel ends up catching up to Stroll, getting around him, and then also getting around on Kvyat on the second to last lap. Gasly has caught back up to Albon for sixth, and then runs into the back of him, knocks his own front wing off, and then drives off an escape road, which is a real
DNF.
Yeah, real bummer for Gasly.
Yeah.
That's really not what you want to
Have
see.
both
Especially,
of the Toro Rossos in front of you and then smash your own car on one of them.
yes.
This
So
is very reminiscent of Vettel on Max from, was that last race?
uh,
The Vettel ran into the back of Max?
yes. No,
yeah.
sorry. That was England race before this? Silverstone? Maybe it was. I don't know.
Yeah.
All my times running together.
Yeah, very reminiscent of just like, oh yeah, it's like Albon moved over to block, and Gasly did not react in time to the block and just ran into the back of him.
Yeah. So they weren't braking at this point. They had just come out of a corner. Yet this tears off Gasly's wing, but Vettel slams into the back of Max, and the cars just bounce off of each other.
Yeah.
That's some awful
F1
luck.
cars are weird, man.
That's some awful luck for your guy. So Vettel ends up getting past Kvyat at this point. So our final race order is Verstappen wins. Vettel goes from 20th to second place to come in on the second step of the podium, and Kvyat gets the first Toro Rosso podium since like what 08,
2008, which was Sebastian Vettel winning the race.
Jeez, man.
Yeah, Daniel Kvyat, dude. Like,
I also just had a kid this weekend, so like
yeah, he had a kid on last Saturday. So, what that is? Whoever would have thunk that Daniel Kvyat would not only get his Red Bull seat back at Toro Rosso, but also get a podium that same year.
Yeah, that's what a roller coaster this race was.
Yeah.
And then so Hamilton ends up finishing in what 11th.
Yeah, outside of the
Yeah, I
points.
think so. Yeah, because I think only 13 cars finish.
Yeah, 13 or 14 cars finish. And then after the race, both Alfa Romeos ends up getting a 10-second stop-go penalty applied to them, which just adds 30 seconds to their race time, which promotes Hamilton and
Robert Kubica
into the point. So Hamilton gets promoted to P9, Kubica gets promoted into P10. So Williams
first points.
they got a point this year.
and it was Robert. Like
Yeah.
it wasn't George Russell.
Yeah,
Holy
that's
shit!
fucking wild. I feel like I didn't see the Williams at all this
What a
whole race.
silly fucking race, guys.
I guess
Yeah.
good for them. You guys are just not up there with it, so you're just cruising around and just hoping to collect whatever you can collect at the end of this shit show.
Yep. And
Lance Stroll P4.
Yeah. So the thing that I liked about this podium ceremony, everybody was so fucking
Everyone
stoked
was
to be
happy.
where they were.
Yeah, like it was
Everyone
crazy.
was happy. Like I feel like the last 3 races or so, there's always been at least one person that is just gutted for what happened to them at the end. Like Charles in Austria got P1 taken away from him, and then I don't remember. I don't remember. I feel like Max was upset in England because his podium got taken away from him by Vettel. I don't remember if anybody else was upset. I think Bottas was up there, and I think he was
Bottas was upset.
yeah, because he started P1
Yeah.
and then got knocked down by Hamilton. So this one, everyone is just super excited.
Yeah, that was actually like really nice to see.
P4 and P5 are super excited. Like their team radios. So Sainz and Stroll are both just stoked.
I mean that. Like I'm looking at these results on my phone right now, and I'm like, how the fuck? Like,
Yeah.
Daniel Kvyat had no idea what to do. Like in the interview, like he looked really awkward in the green room. He looked really awkward like during the podium ceremony.
So here's Kvyat up here, and he's excited. And he's also excited with a guy that took his seat from him at Red Bull proper,
Yeah,
and he's
but-
sharing a podium with him. Like, holy crap, Who could have seen this coming?
Sebastian Vettel, who got the shit smashed out of him by Daniel Kvyat.
Yeah,
It's like
and
they're
who
just
smashed
out
the
there
shit
like with
at-
the biggest shit-eating grin on their faces, all just talking to each other.
So I feel like this race helped, at least for me, and I don't know that it's warranted at all, but it shed some positive light and gave some redemption for Vettel's performance in Germany last year.
Yeah.
Because sure, he crashed out in a really silly way, and he's really the only one to have done it. But this year he proved that in similar or worse conditions, he was able to come from literally the back of the grid
To P2.
To P2.
Yeah.
Granted, a lot of things had to happen for that to occur.
Doesn't matter.
Outside of
P2 's
his
P2.
control, but he still got there. So
Yeah.
He also almost lost P2 on that last lap.
Oh, really?
And that he went off the track and almost lost it, but got back on ahead of Kvyat.
Oh, wow! I didn't see that. That's crazy.
Yeah, I mean, in this race, like there was an average of 5 pit stops.
Yeah. The guy that came in P5 chucked it in reverse at one point and rejoined the race.
Yeah.
Like, Max pitted, what, 5 times?
5 times. There were 78 total pit stops in this race.
Holy crap.
Yeah, it was. Maybe there should be like a mandatory 5 pit stop. Like this was crazy. Like it was.
It was an absolute roller coaster.
Yeah.
If there's no amount of talking to this race that can do it justice. This is one of those races that you just need to watch, regardless of how, if you have any amount of interest in F1. And for anyone that's like new to it, I've heard a couple stories of people who are like, "Oh yeah, like this was the first race I watched." I'm like, "Fuck, man, you set the bar so high for yourself."
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, this is one of the races that people are going to talk about for years and years and
I
years.
guess it's like what Canada 2011 levels
Yeah.
of wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's crazy.
I need to watch that race at some point. I just hear it talked about. I haven't actually seen it.
It's very good. But yeah,
So that was the German Grand Prix,
brought to you by Mercedes-Benz.
brought to you by Mercedes-Benz and their 125 years of motorsport
in more ways than one.
and their 9th place and DNF finish.
Yeah.
Did not finish. Whatever.
Would not have finished in the points had it not been for.
For
Oh.
a penalty applied after the race to Alpha.
Yeah.
Yeah, which they're appealing. Probably nothing will come of the appeal, but
Yeah, I feel
hey,
like
maybe.
Yeah, it could still. They could still end up with no points for this
Which
race.
would really suck for Williams if it
It
got
really
appealed.
Because that's probably the only points that they'll get this year.
Yeah.
Man.
Oh, man, what a race.
So now we're off to Hungary at the Hungaroring this weekend for the last race before the summer break. Looks like it's going to be a dry race, so don't expect a repeat of this weekend. Let's see what some times are for that race. Oh, also after the race, I saw one of the Renault F1 trucks, the transport trucks, went off the highway in Hungary. Luckily, the driver is okay, but one of the Renault trucks just crashed
Fuck.
by himself, evidently.
Whoops.
Yeah, it's not what you like to see. So qualifying is Saturday, August the 3rd at 8 a.m. Central Time, and the race is Sunday, August the 4th at 8:10 a.m. Central Time.
Yeah.
Another easy to watch race.
Yeah, I'm glad.
Give me them New York City times.
9
I
a.m.
hear we have
9
a-
we have a big listener base out there.
Yeah.
Oh,
that's
yeah,
what I
New
hear.
York City.
Devin just-
everyone listens.
He's broadcasting it from the top of several rooftops.
Good
Dense
on you, mate.
population. Yeah.
Yeah. I'm glad we have another race so soon after that one, because that race just has me hungry for more with how good it was.
Bazinga. I
Didn't even mean to do that.
puns.
I am upset. Yeah, so
Speaking of being upset, I read a news story that I came across about Alexander Rossi, of all people, but then it had some F1 stuff in it, in that so Zach Brown was in talks with Andretti to like have a partnership to run a Andretti McLaren IndyCar team next year.
Okay.
But if they'd done that, Andretti would lose their Honda engine deal, because Honda of Japan hasn't forgiven McLaren
of course not.
from their F1 shit. And so Andretti would have had to switch to
Chevrolet.
And like Andretti at this point is like the top Honda team.
Yeah, like Alexander Rossi's doing very good.
Yeah, so they are not taking that deal, even though Zach Brown was offering them quite a bit of money. But it's just funny to me that Honda's so mad about that still.
Like McLaren has to
Yeah.
pay them a shitload of money too.
Can you imagine
like,
how good it
"Nah,
must
fuck you
feel to
guys."
be Honda and having won 2 races?
two
this
races
year?
and a podium.
Yeah.
Like with the junior team.
Yeah,
Yeah,
2 races and 2 or 3 podiums. I guess. Yeah, like that's got to be so good for them.
There was a good tweet from them also after this race, that from Honda Racing, that was just like, "Oh yeah, nice to see our cars winning the race, and the second one GP2."
That's pretty good.
Yup.
Oh, that's funny.
And also, speaking of Honda and good segues, here's a rumor I've heard that seems pretty reasonable. There's rumors that Honda wants to put Naoki Yamamoto in an F1 car at some point this year, presumably Suzuka, presumably testing a Toro Rosso in like one of the free practice sessions.
That sounds
So,
makes sense.
yeah. So I would very much
Maybe that resolves
expect to see that.
Red Bull's junior driver issue. Maybe Honda has junior drivers.
Yeah. But I don't know, like, suppose they decide to bring in Naoki Yamamoto next year. Who goes?
Pierre Gasly.
I don't think
Gasly
he
or
would
is
get
it
dropped
Albon?
completely. I don't feel like Albon's been. I don't feel like anyone's been doing bad enough for that. Like
No,
Gasly
I don't think so.
maybe is, but he's still consistently in front of the other two.
Kvyat has had some really good races this year.
Yeah, I feel like that's true
He's
of both
been-
Kvyat
he's-
and Albon. They both have highs and sort of just this is
Mediocre.
what we expect from
Yeah.
Toro Rosso drivers.
But
Yeah.
Pierre's not had... I take that back. Pierre had a good finish at Silverstone.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
That's it.
He
Yeah,
had, like, a good finish for him.
he
For
had,
for him,
but he
doesn't
topped
matter.
out like the practice sessions and qualified like P3 or P4 of that race.
Yeah.
Like that weekend was just really good for him overall, and very out of character. Unfortunately, is what we're saying from this race.
Yeah.
I really don't think that he's going to keep that seat.
We'll have to see what happens over the next 11 races.
I mean,
guess.
I would hope that in the summer break they flip him. Like, and I don't know who they flip. Like, is it Kvyat or Albon? But
I don't. Feel
I
like
think
they
it's
have-
got to be Kvyat. If they flip him, it has to be Kvyat.
Yeah.
like,
I just don't feel like they have enough to have happened this season.
what
to-
are the constructors' points right now? Do either of you guys have that pulled up? Because like that's the other thing. Is like if they're within striking distance of Ferrari, because Max is within striking distance of the championship.
Yep.
Like,
Yeah, it's Gasly's
Yeah,
really
they're-
holding them back.
261
in the-
versus 217 for Ferrari and Red Bull. So
Like,
less than
that's-
50 points behind. 45.
they need the points finishes.
Yeah, and there's 70 points between Gasly and Leclerc.
Like, that's like I'm not saying that they're gonna dump Gasly because he's bad. Like, this is still a business. Like,
Yeah.
so
And for context, while there's technically it's 65 points between Leclerc and Gasly, there's 7 points between Gasly and Sainz,
Ooh.
which is
that's not where you want to be.
Yeah. And there's 107 points between Gasly and Verstappen.
That's a lot. Yeah, this
A lot.
race did a lot for both the drivers and the constructors championship, closing some things back up.
Yeah, it was very nice. So yeah, Vettel got his bump, Max got a bump, and Hamilton and Bottas basically didn't move.
Yep.
Bottas literally, Hamilton, essentially.
Granted, Mercedes still has a commanding lead in the constructors championship, but this helped that some. That's 409
Yeah.
to 261 for Mercedes to
I
Ferrari.
think Mercedes will still wrap up the constructors. I think P2 is what could matter
Yeah.
if Red Bull had a better
It would
second
take
driver.
It would take a lot for Max to get up there. It's 225 to 184 to 162. Hamilton, Bottas, Verstappen in the driver's standing right now. So we'll see how reliable this Honda engine continues to be. We'll see how consistent Verstappen continues to be. But P2, I feel like P1 is still at question. It's going to take a lot for that to really shift. But I wouldn't even count Vettel out for P2, depending on how he performs.
Yeah,
for the
I
remainder
mean,
of the season.
This is Mercedes' second bad race this year. Like,
What was their first bad race?
no, what's the other race where they didn't finish in a 1-2?
Austria.
Yeah. Like,
Well, I didn't finish in 1-2. What was it? 3-4?
Yeah, it
like-
might have been 3-4.
Yeah.
so that's not really that's not a bad race.
Yeah, this is
but
their first
like,
actual bad race. And
I wouldn't expect a
Yeah.
lot to change in terms of that. Like,
yeah, Mercedes is probably going to consistently come in the top 5 for the remainder of the season, barring mechanical failures, which, again, not super common with Mercedes.
yeah. The summer break.
It's pretty much the whole month of August. We don't resume racing until like the 30th, I think.
It's gonna be.
Too far.
It's a long time, but
Luckily, we also have a Super GT race this weekend and then a Super Formula race in 2 weeks. So
we'll have things to
we'll
talk about.
put off Super GT until the week after this. So
We can fill our gaps.
exactly. And it's just back at Fuji. We
Now,
were just there.
because we have F1 next weekend, let's talk about Fantasy GP.
Fuck you, man. What's Fantasy GP? I've never heard of this in my life.
I fucking didn't either coming into this week because I totally didn't put in any predictions.
Turns out it
That's-
didn't matter for this weekend.
Like, my brain was so consumed with Grid Life that I just totally ignored that, and it didn't fucking matter. P1,
Oh, gosh.
motherfuckers.
I just forgot that we haven't talked about Grid Life, really.
We're
haven't
going
talked
to talk
Grid Life at all.
about that. We're going to talk about Fantasy GP
I don't
right
wanna
now
talk about
because you
Fantasy
guys are
GP.
avoiding it.
I don't want to talk about it.
Kimmy lost some points, and that lost me some points, and now I'm 9th again. I was 8th for the briefest of moments.
I
All my
put in no
drivers-
predictions, and I went up.
All
Like,
my drivers DNF'd.
Yeah, 2 of mine did.
And half my team's DNF'd.
what a
One car
crazy-
from each of my teams DNF'd, man.
Yeah.
what
Yeah,
a crazy fucking race.
2 of my drivers DNF'd, and the third one got his points stripped from him post race.
Yeah.
I'm going to go ahead and run down that top 10 to just go ahead and hammer it home. P1, me, with 1,569 points. John, P2. Zachary Carroll down 2 spots to P3. Jake, P4. Jeff, P5.
That's a weird way to say one, but whatever.
How the mighty have fallen. Daniel, P6. Robbie Vierhout, P7. Adam Nielsen, P8, up a spot. And then Devin down to P9. Sucks to suck. And then Dusty Nixon, P10. It feels good to be on top. I can't maintain this,
I know that
especially when I don't put predictions in.
Yeah.
But-
The only things that I got right out of this race were Max getting the fastest lap and Max winning the race. That's it.
Didn't help you.
Sure didn't.
Sucks to suck.
It sure does.
All right, so like I said, I was so consumed with Grid Life. that-
What's Grid Life?
It's like a motorsports.
Hashtag Grid Life.
Yeah,
That's what your
it's-
shirt
this-
says.
Yes, this is Grid Life
Merch.
Alpine Horizon Festival. So
Are
Grid
we
Life
playing
has
Forza?
It's basically real life Forza.
It's wild.
Like it was wild. It was at Pikes Peak International Raceway, which is just south of Colorado Springs. It's in Fountain, Colorado.
Man, I like Colorado.
It is beautiful, man. I went up actual Pikes Peak.
I like Pikes
Oh
Peak.
man, it's cool.
It's a cool drive.
So I've talked shit about drifting on this podcast.
Okay.
I take back everything I said about drifting
Okay.
because it's fucking wild.
It seems like it'd be cool to watch in person, but
I
doesn't
couldn't
carry
watch it on TV. Like
Yeah.
I can't watch Formula Drift, especially not now. So there were lots of pro drivers there, like Ryan Turek, Forrest Wang.
I'm sorry. Force Wang?
Forest as in trees, Wang.
Okay.
Justin Pollock with Falcon. They had two of the Falcon cars there, the teal and blue cars, with like the big fucking rig, like 50-foot semi truck rig.
Okay. I thought you were going to say wing, and then you said 50
They had like the power stop drift car with
stuff.
Ryan Literal. Like it was fucking wild. And then everything that you think about, like when you think drifting, you think one, Tokyo Drift, but two, like Formula Drift and just like two cars just tandeming around corners. No, they were sending like fucking 6 and 7 cars into a corner together.
That's cool.
Nice.
And I don't want to say like safety was out the window because there were like lots of spotters to keep an eye on things, and there was no major accidents at all.
That's good.
But like we were doing this shit in the dark. Like,
Oh yeah, cars have lights.
there were like thunderstorms in the distance.
That's cool.
A live EDM concert like right behind the drift track. So like lots of lights from that, lots of lightning stuff. You know, the mountains off on the horizon.
Seems like a lot to take in.
And then like the track owner is the coolest fucking guy. Like he just bought a racetrack just because from NASCAR, and like just builds fucking random shit. He had this rat rod that had a flatbed on it that had a fucking flamethrower off the back. So he's driving around like the oval behind all the drift cars, just shooting fire
because
like,
he can.
If you can go to a Grid Life, you should go to a Grid Life. And they had like time attack cars, HPDE, and then Grid Life has its own touring car racing series called Grid Life Touring Cup. And then this particular event, this was the first year, so that a lot of people didn't travel to it. But there were still 7 cars running in these races, and they'd like flip the grid between races and stuff. And I got to see lots of on-track action from that.
What kind of cars are in this?
Grid Life Touring Cup is like the rules are pretty loose. So you can pretty much run whatever you want, like a 12-to-1 horsepower to weight ratio, or 1-to-12.
Yeah.
Whatever.
Fucking
But like you can run Hoosiers, or you can run 200 treadwear street tires and still be competitive because of how the rules work. So there were a couple S2000s, Honda Civics, Mazda RX-7s, Scion, and Subaru like BRZ FRS, GT86.
Yep.
There was like some old Audi A4 out there. There's a huge variant in cars that run this series, and they have lots of different events throughout the year at different places at different festivals. But it was great, man. Like for like a live thing to go and see. Like you going and seeing Formula One is great. Like it's action packed. It's a whole weekend.
You're there with a whole bunch of fucking people.
But
So.
there's a
And there's not a
the
lot for
people
you to
aren't like
actually
the
do.
worst part about it. But
Well,
like,
but it's like you're going to this thing that everybody else is going to see,
Yeah.
versus you're going to this thing that a lot of people are also going to participate in.
yeah, and like you have full access to the paddock.
Neat.
You can walk right up to any of these pro drivers.
And slap them right in the face.
Not that.
Okay. Does someone stop you there?
Yeah, I think you'd probably get thrown out for that.
All right.
But like, I rented the camper, and like in my little spot that I put it in is right off of turn 1.
Neat.
Like, the flip out bed on the camper could have overhung the wall and like been on the track. Like that's how close you are and how much access you have to everything. It was rad. They had like an off-road excursion thing that you could go on if you have an off-road vehicle. There's like a geocaching event like off track, so you get to explore that part of Colorado. They they had a rally stage set up. So, like, if you had, like, a rally car, you could go run that.
Mm-hmm.
They had these things called Sierra cars, which are, like, go-karts, like, pretty big go-karts with the Hayabusa motors in them.
Neat.
And big wings on them and stuff. And I got to drive one of those.
How's that? What kind of gearbox does it have?
It's just like the Gixxer cart, only it works.
Okay.
It is a motorcycle transmission with the sequential shifter.
Yeah, nice.
Like, it had the pedal box with the clutch. The clutch was actually part of the pedal box. It wasn't like on that.
Okay. That's cool.
But yeah, it was rad. Super fucking fast. I have pictures of that. I'll post them to the page. I don't really have a whole lot else to say about it, man. I met Adam Jabay, who is one of the event organizers, and he also hosts Slip Angle, which is the motorsports podcast that got me into motorsports podcasts. I got to hang out with Adam Nielsen from 10 Tenths Podcast the whole time, and he brought me around and showed me a good time. So thanks to you for that. It was great. Jeff, you should have gone.
Maybe
next year.
Maybe.
Because I am definitely going back next year.
All right.
So,
See what I'm up to. Question for you: was there any snow at the top of Pikes Peak?
yes.
Yeah. Fuck yeah.
Hell yeah.
Also, there was a huge lack of oxygen.
No.
Hell yeah.
Dude, I got up there and my head was
lack
pounding.
of oxygen there.
My head was pounding
You're
at the
a
top
baby.
of it. Like,
It's not that bad.
it was not good.
It's only like a slight deviation at 14,000 feet. Like, I think 11,000 feet is the lowest that you can actually feel it, and 14,000.
Yeah, like
not
I didn't
that
feel
bad.
it at the track at all, which I think that the track is like 6,800 foot of elevation.
I don't know about that. Because Colorado itself is like around 55, or Denver, sorry, is around like 55 to 58. I
It
think.
was higher than Denver. Like, it was for sure 6,000 plus. But, yeah, it's a good time. I highly recommend Grid Life to everyone.
Colorado Springs is at 6,000 feet.
Yeah, I'm definitely leaving stuff out, but I just quickly wanted to mention it because,
I'm sure 10 Tenths will also cover it in detail as well.
yeah, and Adam will do it way more justice than I ever could because he actually knows what's going on. Like, the whole time I'm just
It's not
dumbfounded.
his first rodeo.
I
just out
don't
there,
know who any of these people are.
Starry-eyed child.
Yeah.
Oh, wow. Look at the car.
Well, like, I'm pretty numb to, like, seeing supercars and that type of stuff.
No, you're
'cause
not.
I live in Edmond. Like, I see a Lambo every day. Like, it's not something that I'm just like, oh yeah, like,
I'm numb to supercars.
that's because you touch on them every day.
Yeah.
There's a Bentley outside my apartment too frequently.
Is it the orange one?
Yeah, I don't know
That's
why.
super weird.
it's
It's
there.
an SUV, right? Or,
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's weird to see.
Well,
It
you
doesn't
live in
belong.
New York City, so you
Yeah,
should
it's
see
true.
fancy boy
Oh, didn't you
cars
see
all
like
the
a
time.
gang of McLarens the other week?
Yeah, it was like literally like 5 McLarens just all parked up on the curb.
570s.
Not all of them. I don't remember.
Hmm.
There was some variation. I also saw an Aventador just hanging out yesterday by the basketball court.
Just shooting some hoops.
Yeah.
Was it
It was Kevin Durant.
Charles Barkley?
It wasn't Charles Barkley.
Who's Shaq?
I don't think Shaq fits in that car, actually.
I don't think any basketball
guarantee-
players fit in that car.
I barely
it had
fit
the
in that car.
It had the top down.
No, it's mostly a problem of getting your legs inside of it.
It had the top down.
You just climb inside
You
of
just,
the top
you
of
just
it. When you're,
open the door, walk into the seat, and then just slide down.
that's how I would do it if the top was off.
Get you some booties, just like, hang on, I put my seat walking booties on so I can get in my car.
I actually had to do that to get into one of those Sierra cars. Like, I had to, like, climb through the window and stand in the seat and then slide down into it. And I felt bad about it.
Would I fit in one of those?
You probably would.
Interesting.
The one that I drove, the pedal box was kind of far.
Mm-hmm.
Like, a little bit too far for me, really. Like, I think that you could definitely do it. You'd just be a little cramped.
I am in most things.
Yeah, welcome to Jeff's life.
Yeah.
Cramped and everything. But yeah, I think that's all we got for this week.
Cool.
Yeah.
Well, put your fantasy predictions in this weekend, actually.
I'll do
because it's the last one before the summer
I'm back
break.
to reality.
Tune into the Hungaroring race. It normally is pretty fun and is not super exciting, but last year Ricciardo had a lot of good fights. Him and Bottas came together kind of at the end of the race. Ricciardo and Bottas' cars were both beat to shit by the end of the race last year. It's a good time.
Is that the last good race Ricardo had in a Red Bull?
Probably. Because I
Sucks.
think his car blew up like almost literally every race after that.
Yeah.
And then he went to the team whose engines were blowing up.
And it continues to blow up to this day.
Yeah.
Ugh.
I'm amazed that he's still on his first engine, considering the way his engine
No, he wasn't
failed.
on his first engine. Like
You said that-
he was using his second engine, but they went back to the first engine.
I know. I'm surprised that he was able to use his first engine, considering the failure that he had in Bahrain, where he and Hulkenberg both failed at turn 1, and both neither of their
yeah.
cars sounded good at all. I
don't know.
maybe
That's
maybe
what
it was,
happens when you try to JB weld the block back together.
maybe it was Hulkenberg that had the loud failure, and Hulkenberg just had the electronic shut-off failure. I think it's the way that panned out.
Oh yeah, that Ricardo had that electrical failure.
Yeah.
Where he just had to jump.
The
out of
same
car.
way he did the previous year in his Red Bull, where
Yeah.
the car just shut off.
Yeah. Oof.
Oof.
Let's end on that somber note.
We'll end on Ricardo's failing cars.
Oof.
Oof.
All right, guys. We'll see you next week. Same place. The internet.
Goodbye.
Goodbye.